What's going on, guys? Another video. Decided not to really do my exposures on tape this time because tape. This isn't tape. This is digital media. God, I'm getting old. Point is, I didn't really want to make the exposures because it's just. I mean, it was literally, as I said, it was like a 5. It was a 0 actually, in the start of the exposure, and then I had some hash browns, and then it basically, I didn't really count it. I went to a 0 because it's no point. That's kind of like the whole goal of doing graduated exposure therapy, is to get 0. I remember the first time I got a 0, I was so like, whoa, where is this coming from? I actually need to take a step back and actually be like whoa, like when you've never, like, what, after you've been through pain for such a long period of time. I don't know if it's pain, like mental pain, it's a good example of physical pain. Like, you've been through pain for such a long period of time, and then you just, for a second, you have this brief like respite, like, I don't know, you just start it was hard to explain, to have a 0. It was just, it really felt like different and alien. It's hard after feeling bad to feel good. The main thing I wanted to make of this video was talking about my behaviors, in terms of how they've shifted now that I've been doing my exposures for about a year. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to do this quickly, the behavior part, because there's something else I also want to talk about. Behaviorally speaking, there were some changes that happened to me after I started doing my exposure therapy. Now, the first main thing was I started doing my exposures where I pray. And, like, on one hand, you can look at that and say, well, that's a reassurance behavior. That's what my therapist would call a crutch. You would use to kind of, not really face your anxiety. You would kind of just do that to say, oh, I'm in a safe place. And I did realize my anxiety was going down. I also find that a lot of my calm places, my calm thoughts that I come to, at least some of them, are based back in the idea of my grandparents and the fact that I lived with them for a long period of time. Not so much solely. They were, though, basically a secondary, almost primary caregiver, I would say, since my parents would always be working or going to school. Like, literally after school, we would spend time with my grandparents, me and my brother, for at least 3-4 hours, sometimes longer, almost every day. So, and they were especially religious, so that whole, I think, plays into the idea of why I'm in that behavior, right? Why I'm doing that reassurance behavior, like when I first started doing my exposures. I've realized, though, after months and months of doing the exposures, that in reality, that's another crutch. Just like this scarf, for example. I was also thinking headphones, like I would wear. Thing is, for the scarf, like, I would wear the scarf. And it's even, like, it's very complicated, because back in the day, I would, let's talk about this here and now. I would wear the scarf, and when I was first doing the exposures, I would, like, I don't want to say consciously, I wouldn't want to say necessarily unconsciously, just kind of like, I would kind of like see the scarf, and then, down the line in my head, I would think, okay, I'm going to do an exposure, and so I would just not really think too much about the scarf. I wouldn't really give it an option. I wouldn't weigh it as to whether I want to wear my scarf or not wear my scarf while I'm doing my exposure, right? Then I realized, well, that's just like eating where you pray. It's a reassurance behavior. You need to ask yourself, do you want to wear the scarf, right? Not so much like not so much like I need to wear the scarf, or I have to wear the scarf, or I don't need to wear the scarf, and I don't need to have to wear the scarf, because that's an extreme. That's kind of like, if that's how you want to live your life in an extreme way. What I'm saying, though, is for me, I need to give myself a choice, right? Because this is like, how I look at it. You got to give yourself a choice to whether you want to do this or not, because I mean, why not? You don't just dismiss something like that, because, like, it could be very, very important. Let's say next time you're dismissing a scarf and it's super, super cold. Then what? right? You're just gonna like live your life without a scarf, and that's what I would do for a long period of time. I would have these kind of, you know, I don't know how to explain it, rules. Well, not really rules. Just if I do things a certain way, then certain things will happen, right? If I listen to the Quran while eating, then I won't choke, which doesn't make any sense. It's a reassurance behavior. I mean, it's based in magical thinking. Thoughts occurring to me. That's for the past, as I said. We're moving on a bit here. Yeah, we're moving on. We're trying to not look at the past. I always try to look at the past. I always have OCPD, so I always bring up the past, which brings me to my next type of we'll talk about that afterwards. My behaviors. Well, if I remember, my behavior. Another behavior I started doing was I would start. I started smoking. I think before I started doing the exposures. And what happened was something happened major in my life. Basically, someone who I knew decided to, I really don't want to discuss it. The point is something, I need to discuss it though. That's the whole point. Well, let's just say my, God, it's so hard to say because I'm thinking like, let's say he watches this. I know there's a low possibility. There's definitely a possibility though, and I don't want to feel, I want to say vulnerable is a better word for it. Like he's gonna know who I am and uncover me and all that. He's gonna like, your life went off the rails ever since you left me, and you're better off with me, and yada yada yada. I don't know. This probably doesn't think that. It's like negative filtering. I think it's the worst. Like negatively, like how do you know what he's thinking? How do you know what he's going to? Anyway. Negative filtering again is where you take information and just filter the negative parts out. The positive parts out, and just magnify the negative parts. And say to yourself, that's what I should emphasize. So that being said, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I want to talk more about my behaviors. So one of my behaviors was started to smoke cigarettes and smoke weed. And it all started from a picture I saw. I think I saw a picture of honestly, I don't know if this is what I really want to talk about. At the same time, I think it's healthy. Fuck it. Yeah, my ex-boyfriend is getting remarried, and so I found out about this because I casually Facebook stalk him. I don't Facebook stalk him. I just once in a while, check on his Facebook, and I saw a picture of him with another guy, and it basically said they were not only that they're either getting married or they're already married, and that picture just kind of, something happened to me. It may have been automatic. It may have been. I'm not entirely sure. It may have been. It wasn't necessarily logical what I was thinking, because I just realized something needed to change. I don't know if it was that day. I decided. I don't know if it was that day. I decided to go to the store and get cigarettes. Definitely, very very shortly, I went to get marijuana. And when I started smoking marijuana, cigarettes are like right next to it. I smoke marijuana and I smoke cigarettes. That's just how I guess grew up smoking cigarettes and marijuana. So that kind of also stays with you. So that's what happened. I'm gonna just yeah, that's what happened. And so that happening, that's one of the behaviors that continued even when I was doing my exposures. One of the main thrusts of why I wanted to do my exposures was, I said, I was fed up with how I was something in my eye. Sorry guys, I just woke up. Sorry. That's a bit embarrassing. there was something, and that behavior continued. And so since the behavior continued, I just want to comment on that. That's behavior that continued. I mean, it could be self-soothing behavior, more than likely it is to make you feel better, right? Having said that, it also has good, properties to it. Basically, this me getting fed up with my mental illnesses, most specifically choking phobia, and taking it seriously, saying, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to remember everything I remembered about therapy that everyone told me about and that I've learned, and I'm going to just record it, my anxiety, and many times I think on videos I'm gonna this is like, they're gonna watch me choke on the screen. They're gonna, that's the video, me choking to death. So again, that's something we've talked about before. Moving on, what I want to say is that's another behavior that I started taking my mental health seriously. So 3 main behaviors. The first one was I started doing my exposures where I would pray. Second one is I would start smoking cigarettes and marijuana. And the third one was I started taking my mental health seriously. Those are 3 behaviors. Well, the third one is basically the reason the previous 2 I'm doing, right? I'm taking my mental health seriously because, in a way, it's a combination, actually, I would say. Goodness, I'm ranting here. Okay. Well, that being said, those are the main behaviors that change. Because if you remember in the beginning, Dr. Greenberger said when your thoughts and emotions change, your behaviors will change, right? And so will your feelings. So with that being said, I really just want to vent in terms of what, well, not necessarily vent. Next thing I want to talk about, I don't think I'm really talking more about my feelings as much, because I just don't feel comfortable talking about them on tape right now. There may be a time or a day where I do feel. I've covered a lot of this already in other videos. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is this anger that I'm feeling towards myself. I am feeling anger towards myself because what's happening is I had other pictures. I'm a big fan of, I guess, looking through. Well, not necessarily. I uncovered these pictures from when I was in high school. So at least, let's see, 2005? At least 15 years ago, those pictures were. At least. And I remember seeing these pictures, and I thought to myself, oh, I don't know what I thought. Something came in me, like a feeling, like, whoa, that was you, and like, how far you've fallen, right? Like, look at who you are now compared to who you were then. And I'll be honest, back then I was incredibly mentally healthy, incredibly, I want to say, like, all the good things that come with being mentally healthy. Like, I felt confident, I felt, I guess, at ease with my peers. I had a healthy social group. I was doing well in school. I had, parents who weren't divorced, and it was just before my coming out experience. It was just before, I guess you want to say, I mean, as people will say, shit hits the fan. It was just before all of that. And these pictures were taken. They weren't even taken because I wanted them to be taken. They were taken. Some of them I took, and some of them were actually part of the project I was doing. It was very interesting though, because the pictures showed me like just being me, and so I, really thought about these pictures, and a lot of thoughts came to me. And one of the biggest ones was anger. And I quickly said to myself, no, it's not anger at the world or anybody else. It's anger at me. I'm angry at myself for wasting. And I roughly calculated how many. In my head, I was doing this very quickly. It was all almost instinctual or feeling driven, or, I just feel like this is what I have to do. To a certain extent, it could be emotional reasoning. I don't know. I mean, me to look into logical fallacies here, because this did happen. Anyway, I'm rambling again. What I want to say is the pictures, they caused me to get angry at myself. And I calculated how long, briefly, I didn't take out a calculator and calculate exactly. I said to myself, I've missed 4,000 days, approximately. And sorry, 1 second, guys. I've missed 4,000 days, and all these memories came to me, like, for example, where I would hang out with my friends. We would go to a parking lot to pick up our, alcohol and our cigarettes, and then we'd, go somewhere, whatever, get some weed, find a park, right, get fucking just, sauced or whatever, crunk, as we'd say. Well, drunk is when you're drunk. If you're high, you're blitzed. And if you're drunk and high, you're crunk. So. So, yeah. So I was thinking all these thoughts from the past. And I have this ability to kind of think of the past. Like, I'm used to it. I love history and whatnot. So the point is, all this came, and I was thinking to myself, I missed 4,000 days. And in a way, I started becoming more and more mindful and present in the moment, trying to use that as a motivation or as a guiding principle, guiding tool, if you may, to govern my life, to be like, okay, let's try to at least get back to those actions and those behaviors that were healthy, to a certain extent, rather than the behaviors and actions that are that came after that you could say after the fall. And it's been a rough ride. I mean, since I figured those pictures out about three months ago, I rediscovered them. I even noticed when I showed my friends these pictures, one of them at least, like my brother, I could notice a sort of change in his attitude. Yeah. Yeah. I felt more like, hey man, I remember you from that time. At least that's what I'm thinking. I mean, that's the vibe or whatever I got off. Like, okay. That's what I was feeling from him. That, I don't want to, crystal ball think. The feeling was, hey man, I remember you from back then. I want to talk to that person. And I want to talk to that person too. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do. I think a lot of people, all my friends, are wondering where that person went. And that's the thing with depression. You kind of don't remember a lot of things that happen. A lot of thoughts, I mean, coming to the present, a lot of thoughts you have, you may not even be aware of that you're experiencing this. I think that's a common cause of derealization and depersonalization, which is something that I am aware of now a little bit more ever since I did have a couple episodes of those. Going back to the photos though, I've decided that I want to really look at those photos more and kind of like understand, like, you know, who was I back then. It's a nice reminder of who you were and who you can be still, right? I mean, I don't want to think negatively. I believe I can still be this person. It was weird though looking at these pictures, because also to a certain extent you don't really know who this person is. It's a stranger. You need to rediscover him. There were some pictures, like for example, one was a display picture for my, if anyone remembers like AOL and MSN, those instant messaging services. So one of the pictures was actually a picture I took at Nathan Phillips Square, which is an ice rink in Toronto, and it was a very dystopian picture. I was supposed to just take it. I'm not sure why I asked my friend to take it, and he took it, and it was just really interesting. I was dressed all in black leather jacket, black shoes, black, like I think I had black boots, black pants, black shirt. I had like a chain on or something, like a small cross. Not a Christian cross. It was I was trying to get an iron cross. I used to have an iron cross I'd wear a lot, and couldn't find it. And so I mean, I didn't find it. It was before we left. This I used to wear it a long time ago, like in New York, when I used to live in New York, and I lost it or something. I dropped it and I couldn't find it, and or something. It wouldn't reattach. It broke or something, and I had to buy another one. And the ones here, the ones I bought in Canada here, they're not close enough. I hate to say not hateful enough, because the whole point was not to be hateful. I wasn't trying to be hateful wearing Iron Cross. This was because I kind of liked. Well, first of all, I was a kid and I was young. It was more like I liked. No, because I don't want to say that and get myself off the hook, because I mean, there were some people when I used to wear it who kind of definitely. I think we're getting off track. That's not the whole point of the video. So, going back to behaviors, I don't really think I want to comment more. Did I discuss marijuana, cigarettes? Oh, one more thing I really don't do is praying. I mean, as a Muslim, and I don't even like saying this as like an aside. It's just that I'm beginning to reevaluate my relationship with, I mean, Allah and God. There's a lot that's just missing from, I don't know, the tradition. There's it's very, I mean, it's intense. It's very intense having to kind of know that there's not anybody really to talk to about being gay and Muslim. I mean, there's a lot of people to talk to you about being, Muslim. There's a lot of people to talk to you about being gay. There are surprisingly few. You have like El Farouk Kaki, who's Toronto-based. Pervez Shawarma, I think, is based in Canada as well. There are some, and there's another woman I saw. She had a TED Talk, and there was this guy in Britain I remember as well, who what was he? He talked like a snake. I mean, that's a random thing to say, just randomly. Yeah, I could link some of those videos if you guys want to watch them in the description. I'll do that. Yeah, so I think that's good enough in terms of what I wanted to say. Just you got to remember when you do your exposures, right? When you do an exposure, you're gonna realize your behaviors are gonna change. There's gonna be a reciprocal relationship between all of it, between your emotions, right? Your thoughts, your kind of external functioning, and your behavior. External functioning is stuff like sleeping. I want to say, like using the washroom, grooming, to a certain extent, eating, depending on the level of choking phobia one would have. See, that's a good example of negative filtering, what I just did right there. Like, I assume that my choking phobia is never going to be, like, it's going to be the worst, and it's never going to be kind of this different type of thing, this external functioning, rather than, you could say, what is it, feeling or thought or whatever. Okay. Just want to end it here. Not much else to say, not much else to really talk about. Yeah. Alright. I'll link this up in the description. Remember, guys, stay with it.